that you had to learn was destructive.
Yes.
So actually what they were learning at these universities and places, it was like
Yes.
how to bring things.
Well, we all have heard, we all know how Srila Prabhupada speaks rather negatively about the whole, modern educational setup, which ultimately is destructive. I mean, it's atmahana, isn't it? Atmahana, killer of the soul, killing the soul ultimately. And not only that, but killing, it's like, over excessive exploitation of natural resources. So killing, in so many ways, destroying, isn't it? We are destroying ourselves in terms of not having any time for thinking about who we are, etc. like that. He touched on that a little bit, don't have time to think. And also it affects our lives at all levels in terms of how we deal with other individuals, how we deal with nature as well, etc. like that, which is again, touching on the theme of this convention, for example. The whole modern approach is how to extract, how to exploit, isn't it? Because it's my greed actually, how to meet the demands of my body, unsatiated desires, etc. like that. Whereas in Vedic culture, when we learn basics in terms of life is to meant to become self-realized and to help others as well. Life is, that more Brahminical understanding of life. Life is meant to give opportunity to others. So it's a complete opposite, actually. The opposite of exploitation is that of giving knowledge, giving support, whatever may be needed. We'll now go to our next and last presentation, which is, again, we cannot imitate because it's a country like Indonesia, and definitely in more tropical countries, to realize some of these objectives. And let me see which one is it. Yeah, just two down, Gora Hari. Yeah. Actually, in Indonesia for the last so many years, we've been developing various projects, and just and although we can't, something has to happen. Gorahari is one of maybe 5 communities or temples in Bali, actually. Throughout Indonesia, has anyone been to Indonesia? 2 people, yeah. Indonesia actually is the largest Muslim country in the world in terms of population, and it is the 4th, amazingly, the 4th largest populated country in the world. Indonesia, with maybe something like 250 million people. 100 million of those people living on the island of Java. There are something like 14,000+ islands. That's what makes up Indonesia, 14,000 islands. And it's spread out over like 3 time zones. So it's quite, to go from one island to another, depending on where you're going, may take up to 5 days on a ship, actually. So our devotees are spread out in quite a few major islands, like Bali. Bali is an island, it's a state. Java is another state, or island rather. Within Java there are a few states. And this particular, our main community in Indonesia is on the island of Sumatra. We don't have time to show a video on that, but we have a 50-minute documentary which is quite interesting, that speaks about this particular community. I think I made reference to that. It's been there developing for the last 15 years. on the island of Sumatra, province of Lampung. Anyways, this is regarding Gorahariya. Let's continue. Well, we've heard this before. Prabhupada wanted that we establish such kinds of communities. Yes, next. I mentioned this before, produce only what you need and use only what you produce. It's something we should be keeping in mind, and as much as possible try to follow the spirit of what this means. Next. These are some of the projects we have in Indonesia. Gita Nagari, I mentioned, is on the island of Sumatra. The second one, Ganga Sagar Baru, is on the island of Kalimantan, which is on the northern side, much larger. The one we're going to look at is Gorahari. I'm sorry? Oh, Baru. Baru means, I'm sorry, it's Indonesian language means new. Yeah, new Gita Nagari. It's like in America we have Gita Nagari. And Lalitpur, Sevakun, also in the same island of Kalimantan. Manohar Ashram, that's on another island in Irian Jaya. Anyways, in Irian Jaya, it's like going to Africa, Papua. Anyone been there? First time I went there, actually with a couple of devotees, we arrived in one village where people, you can still see people walking around with bow and arrows. And when we arrived in the village, most of the village people had, they were coming back from a hunt because they had spotted a deer in their territory, and they all had a piece of that deer, actually. So, I mean, some places are a little bit, a lot of Christians are there preaching, but our devotees are trying to develop a small project there as well. And Prahlad and Kunti Ashram, we have a few youth hostels, because this is something important. When we reach out, you know, we can all go back when we were younger, especially those who are getting a little older. It is common and natural that when one is young, one is trying to see, you know, where am I going to fit in, and what can I do? Where's, what will I, how can I be part of this world, etc., like that. So if one can introduce, and that's what we did actually in Sumatra, introduce the whole Prabhupada's ideology and ideas about self-sufficiency and not being entangled in modern day lifestyle, etc. So from young people, actually, we can inspire them to take up some training and become leaders in our small community in Sumatra called Gita Nagari Baru, actually. That's exactly what happened. Okay, next. So this was established in Bali. I think they have it 102 residents. Actually, they have about 15 families, but many other families are within a 2 or 3 kilometer area. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it just gives a little idea of what's happening in terms of what they're growing, etc., like that, and various facilities that have been built up over the years. Next. These are the deities of Sri Radha Madhava, and the temple. You can only see it a little bit, portion of it, but they have a very nice altar that we can see in the next slide on the right side. People in Bali are very artistic. They're also very good singers, and so devotees have made their own altar. We've had seminars there on Varnasrama, and this was one of the seminars going back some years ago. Many enthusiastic devotees. They recently upgraded their Goshala as well. They have special cows, unfortunately, that don't give milk, called Sapi Bali. Cows that are probably traditionally forest cows next. So naturally, as we do, they had Jagya to inaugurate the Goshala. Next. And then, the grass comes from our own, we grow our own grass. Some devotees. Yeah, this is something interesting. As a matter of fact, yesterday, Casey was here? No. Yesterday I wanted to give a practical demonstration of this, and on the right side, let's start with the left side. I'm sure you've all seen how in India traditionally they make these cow cakes. What we may be less familiar with, but actually what I'll do is I'll take out a sample. This comes from Sumatra. I'll pull out two. I would like these back actually. One for the Mataji. These are handmade incense sticks made by our devotees. Anyone can learn how to make this, and it is 100%, there's nothing added, no artificial flavors or scents or whatever. One can add some natural things.
Well, what is it? What is it? Incense of what?
It's incense. You know incense? You've heard of incense?
Yeah. What kind of incense? I mean, what is
It's cow dung. 100%, I'm sorry. It's 100% cow dung. Yeah, we're in Ocean. So we started making incense here yesterday. Huh?
Only cow dung.
Only cow dung, Mataji. It's cow dung, and cows have a natural aroma that needs to be maybe cultivated. No, really, the cows have a natural aroma, and cow dung from healthy cows, not from diseased cows. Cow dung from healthy cows is very is aromatic, natural aroma, and it's like, you know, if you've ever been to a village in India where they plaster the cow dung every day. I mean, it's cow dung, right?
Antiseptic.
It's antiseptic. So many wonderful properties are there. In Juhu, in Mumbai, they only offer this kind of incense to the deities. More and more temples in India are introducing. This is part of our campaign as well, that we'll talk about tomorrow, where how in practical ways we can again reconnect with Mother Surabhi, with Mother Cow. Not only it's like this is handmade. We have a small video on this actually on our website as well. And you know, anyone can, you can learn it in 2 minutes, in 2 minutes. And it's very practical. If you get sun, a little bit more sun than we've been getting here, but like if you get good sun, like within 2 days, just leaving it in the sun, it dries, and then you can start using it. So I'll pass it. For example, in Gita Nagari Baru, in our community, you can just pass this around. This is made by the devotees, and in India, actually, more and more people,
10 pieces.
more and more devotees are doing all kinds of projects, actually, up to 25 or more. And so it's like, you know, this is following the principle of use only what you need, right? Well, we have all this cow dung, and we could easily, should actually be making, and should be offering the best, isn't it, to the Lord. We can easily be making, starting today, you know, our own incense. We can make our own soaps. You know, whenever I'm in villages, I use generally, you know, direct cow dung.
Cooking.
Yeah, cooking is another. I mean, the best soap, natural soap, is actually this cow dung, fresh cow dung. And the skin becomes very clean, and also the skin becomes very shiny. So if you want to have a shiny body, if you want to shine, then start using cow dung. Actually, it's very healthy, and then from the cow cakes, dry cow cake, if you burn it, then you can make tooth powder, isn't it? Either directly as it is, or you add certain ingredients. There are recipes for that. So right away, it's like, you just imagine, you calculate how much you and your family members spend every month on soap, tooth powder, things like that. And it's like when we can make these, then our life becomes more simple. We save money, etc. like that. And it doesn't really take a long time. And I mean, the cows are supplying more cow dung than you can use, obviously. We'll just continue here with the, this is something else the devotees have learned how to make this. What is called, in India they call it go-ark. This distilled cow urine that is very medicinal. One person in India, he explained it the following way: this is not only, doesn't act only like medicine, it acts like a doctor. It'll go in your body and detect wherever there is some disease, and will help to counter that or heal that disease condition.
What, it's taken internally?
Yes, it's drunk.
And
Yeah.
But you pasteurize it and then
No, you just only, you distill it.
distill it.
You distill it. There's a process to distill it, and 75. Let's say you have a gallon or whatever quantity. 75% will remain there after being distilled. Then you bottle it, and you drink a certain amount. Well, there are procedures. Means you drink it with a mixture of water, for example. Yeah. It's very common in India, and prescribed by Ayurvedic doctors as well, and very powerful. Actually, can actually cure. There are recorded studies on this. Can cure cancers. I mean, it's that, it can be that effective. So that's something else, for example, that can be introduced or learned. Yeah. And of course, here's maybe not so easy to plant rice, but these are the different activities in terms of agriculture. Yeah, just keep going. Yeah, it's like everyone gets involved in it. Yes, continue. Yeah. When we work in a group like this, it's common in India, in Indonesia as well. Whenever there's some common activity, people, they like chip in, and they do it like, without expectation of salary, etc. Yes. Long beans, some of the, yeah. So although it's only 2.5 hectares, I mean, not a very large area, they have close to 15 families. Of course, many of them are working outside, and also now they're looking for more land, actually, because on 2.5 hectares you cannot expand very much. Yeah. Different produce from the land, both vegetables and fruits as well, etc. So in the previous presentation we were hearing about the importance of seeds, right? Seed bank. We just, actually it's a major topic, seed bank. In such communities like this one, we should have seed bank. We should be saving, we should know the kind of crisis that is there regarding seeds. Yeah, next. So different varieties of fruits, again, according to climate and whatnot, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's getting close to the end. Yeah, many things in terms of medicines as well, different engagements for the children. And I was mentioning about cottage industries. They're very, very artistic, very good with the hands, especially they make these garudas and all kinds of decorations. Yeah, making incense. They make their own oil. Devotees have learned, this is what it's called, goark, distilled cow urine. It's white in color, and they bottle it in, yes. Right. Yeah, practicing yoga, that's also natural water. They have natural water going through, yeah. I think that's it. Okay. So, although it's definitely presenting more of a challenge when we are in countries such as Sweden or Canada, where I'm from, still Prabhupada did make that statement that the basic principles of self-sufficiency and minimizing our basic necessities apply. And we just have to figure out how to do that in a practical way, so that ultimately, again, as Prabhupada instructed, save time for chanting Hare Krishna, save time for associating with devotees, and when we minimize our material necessities or material activities, then and learn to live, with the what we call bare necessities of life, isn't it? Then life definitely becomes more simple, and and we, as illustrated by this person making his presentation, so much of free time will actually be there. Of course, our free time is meant to engage in. If we have more free time, then we can engage in more preaching activities. Prabhupada wanted that even in our villages, isn't it? At least in some places, possibly easier to do. Like in India, you go by bullock cart to local villages and whatnot. But in more westernized countries, practically there are no villages to go to. But still, according to our different situations, we try to bring this message of Krishna consciousness. But we can only bring this message that we're trying to explain here in terms of, let's say, Varnasrama, more simplified living, if we ourselves, isn't it, live it, if we experience it only by living it, then we can realize more and more how true it is, how beneficial it is, and how much this has to become a conviction for us. This will come out in tomorrow's documentary in connection with, it's amazing how it's like, people who are like this one person, who are not devotees, they're getting some nice realizations. So this Dr. Alan Savory, that will be featured, maybe 15 or 30 seconds as part of the video that we're going to present tomorrow, makes this point that the only way our planet today can be saved, and this is a professional person who's analyzed and studied, and his area of expertise has been, he's a biologist, and he's traveled around the world studying land and some of the major problems we have in terms of climate change, in terms of what he calls desertification, more and more land becoming arid and desert. And that's because we're living the wrong way, you see. And so his statement just a little preview to tomorrow's presentation, is that the only solution to today's major problems that will address especially climate change and this problem of desertification is that we have large herds of animals, especially cows, grazing. As things were done previously, especially during Lord Krishna and Balaram's time, I mean, everywhere people kept large herds of cows, and that was the main activity. Now we've done away with this, and therefore we have the kind of problems that we have, isn't it? So it means coming back, isn't it? Coming back to our spiritual nature and coming back to our material nature. Knowing and respecting the natural laws created by Krishna. Knowing about the natural laws of this body, for example. If we overeat, we get sick. If we overtax this body as a machine, then it will show signs of fatigue or whatever. So respecting the laws of nature, and those are given, especially, once again, in our Shastra. Any comment or question possibly on everything we talked? Excuse me, before I take your question, I would request, someone to give half of this to our other side, and just give it to Mataji's side also. And if there's any short, you can. This is a short questionnaire we generally pass out on the last session. Devaki Mataji pointed out, maybe it's good to pass it out now. And my humble request, don't fill it out now, is by tomorrow, if you can bring it back so that you have enough time to look at feedback. Someone had a comment or question? Is there a mic? Here's a mic, quickly. I hope it works.
Can you use the urine and cow dung from any breed of cows, like our cows also?
Yes, yes.
Like any breed of cows?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The original Deshi cows, excuse me, will have more antiseptic properties. In many ways will be better, but other cows also.
Is there any modern medical research into the medicinal quality
Yes,
benefits of cow urine?
yes. I should try to get, but it's like, is there any proof regarding medicinal value of cow dung?
Some research, actual
Yeah, correct.
research.
Yeah. Yes. It's a good point, and Prabhupada does mention about, I think, possibly both. You'd like to have the question repeated, is it? Or I should repeat the question?
It's a simple question. Is there any modern medical research concerning the medicinal value of cow urine?
I don't have any myself, and whether people who are Ayurvedic doctors will attest to it, and I would have to search out what kind of research. I'm quite sure there is.
There must be.
Yeah, because it's widely used, and many things have been documented. So there is definitely, but I don't have with me as such.